What's up, y'all? I'm Matt Vogt, and let me talk to you. I'm an entrepreneur, a fitness enthusiast, and a self-proclaimed podcaster. In this show, we're going to find businesses that are changing, growing, and evolving their area of industry. And if you listen closely, you'll not just learn how they got there, but how you can do the same. In today's episode, guys, what we're going to do is look at the 3 key points of what this podcast is really about, and to stick with this format that I'm going to be going forward with in the future. I'm usually going to be having a guest on here. It's going to be a business owner or a personal friend that can talk about their life experiences in business and in life. And so for that today, I'm going to introduce my man Murph.
Hi, I'm not on camera.
And he is going to lead this topic to introduce this podcast, and more importantly, introduce who the hell I am and why you should care.
Jorts notwithstanding.
Jorts are phenomenal. And they're making a comeback, bro. Come on.
Whatever. But anyways, hello to all of you in the audience, all the listening base. I am producer Murph. If you know me from any of the stuff that I do, I fit the categories of the type of guests that Matt wants to have on. And so just being someone who produces podcasts for a living, has known this guy for 20 years almost.
Yep.
And who has worked with and done business with Matt. Like, I think it's a pretty unique pairing. And I'm excited to do it because, I mean, you've been talking about doing this for a while. And so being able to be involved, number one, is a blessing. Being able to help you tell your story is, again, something that I professionally consider my business. And just growing through this with you together, I think should be a lot of fun. So without further ado, let's get to know you. You know, give the people like a brief journey to how you got to being where you are now. You're 31, correct?
Yes, sir.
You run White River Contracting.
Yep.
And you've run a few businesses. Your girlfriend's an entrepreneur. You come from a very blue collar background. Give us the brief glimpse of how Matt got to be where he is right now.
So a brief overview is I started out working for the railroad, and then I was actually working out at Exist Fitness here locally at the Concord Plaza. Ended up meeting Kyle Combs, which he is a franchise owner at Supplement Superstore now. And he ended up talking to me and was like, hey, man, if you ever want a career change, you can come over. I'd love to have you at S2. So when that happened, naturally, I was just so enthusiastic about lifting at that time. And it, rightfully so, I still am. However, at that time, I was really new to it, but he kind of would guide me throughout the gym. So, I was like, hell, I'll take him up on it. Ended up going through that whole process, getting the job there, ended up working my way up into First Form headquarters, because at the time you had to do so well in the store that actually you had to get put in First Form. They didn't hire you directly.
It was the vertical integration. It was
exactly.
It was Andy being able to say like, hey, out of all the people who already work in this very competitive environment, we have this thing brewing over here, and you could be on the ground level of that.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, dude, that job is no joke. There are a lot of things you just had to do to achieve that status. And I actually got on the ground floor there with Aaron Summers and Will Grumke. If any listeners know who that is, they are actually higher ups now, which is cool. But
they're executives.
So for them, or for me, I went in, did that for a while, ended up going back to the railroad, and then shifted gears again. And Jared Connell, my buddy from high school, old J-Con, he called me back, and ended up going back there, stayed another 3 or 4 years. And then, I got very close with one of the owners of First Form, and Chris Klein. And every day I'd get off and I'd just talk to this man. And I would just talk to him about everything: business, taxes, life, everything.
Football.
Definitely football.
Absolutely.
I don't know how many times he asked me to drive him down to Chiefs games.
I've gone to those Chief games in that man's sport bus. Chris Klein, you're a good man.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Thank you. So ended up doing all that, man. And, from what he taught me, man, it just, at First Form and S2, I feel like what they do is they teach people to either become just the best entrepreneurs you can possibly become, man.
Yeah.
They load you with so much value and knowledge, and it's just free. I don't know any other company that can load people with that much and just say, hey, man, no harm, no foul. If you want to leave, you're going to be the best wherever you go.
We're both examples of that too. And you were the reason that I eventually even inquired about working at First Form. I did a small stint in S2, and like retail just isn't for me. Like I'm very introverted, and like at First Form, being able to work in the warehouse, have a very, niche unit. You really got familial with people. It was definitely different than any kind of job I'd ever had up until that point. And, I would say the other thing that I would bring up from our experience is that it's definitely not free though, because in order to get to those next levels of knowledge, because you have those relationships with such people, you have to put in a whole lot. You have to give a shit ton. And it's not a 50-50 thing. It's really not. It's sometimes they're pouring more into you, but like you are pouring into that place because the mission is to help real people get real and long-term results, as you well know. So I just wouldn't say that it was free.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. Cause I mean, it, in a sense, they wanted you to care so much that it was like you own the company, which I love about that, because I think that's, unfortunately, that's not the circumstances in life. However, if somebody can adopt that mentality, they will fucking absolutely destroy anywhere they go or anyone in their path.
So I think it's safe to say that adopting that mentality, it's bound to happen whether you work your way up. And shout out to multiple guys, not even just the two that you named, because I love Will, I love Aaron, I love Jaycon, I love Cody Klein. Everyone knows I call Cody dad. I love a lot of people who work for that company, but a lot of people do defect off and become entrepreneurs. And a lot of them we hope to have on this show. So when you decided to start your own business, talk to me a little bit about that journey. What was the initial step to say, I'm going to stop being a full-time employee of a place that's done so much and inspired me so much to actually go out and do it myself? What was that transition like?
Well, it was, it was a talked about transition between me and Chris. And ultimately, I feel like between me and him, he knew it was going to happen eventually, just from all of our talks and everything. We kind of just figured out that I'm someone that needs to be out on my own. I'm not a rogue employee, but I like doing things my way when I know it's better. And if I'm doing something my way, it's to increase productivity. Like I handled the truck and delivering to all the stores. And, I made it a point to go in early and, make sure everything was picked, packed, ready to go, loaded on the truck. They said, hey, come in at noon, and I'd still be there at 3:45, 4 a.m. to help the guys get me ready, to make sure that they didn't have any issues, because that would ultimately affect me, which would ultimately affect the stores. And it got to a point prior to me that stores weren't getting pallets until, 4 or 5 or 6 p.m., which, it doesn't seem like a lot. But if you ever worked in the store, getting those at rush time, that really messes up the flow, because that's 2 customers, that either A, a person can't help, or B, that truck driver is having to move everything, bob and weave through all these people.
It messes up the flow of the store.
Absolutely, tenfold. And, I tried to do things like that. And, at some points, it got me in trouble with a former manager. But, I talked to Chris Klein, and he was like, hey, man, no, we're good. Like, you're good. But so I think it was known that it would happen eventually. And then, I actually started doing on the side because I would get done so early, because like I said, I would get there early. So I'd get done earlier than normal. And so I'd have all this free time. There'd be times I'd get off at like noon, right? So when I'd get off at noon, I'd have free time, and I did someone's floor for them, $5,000 cash, and it took me 2 days. And I'm like, this is something I could do, right?
Yeah.
It helped them. It helped me, and I was good with it. So, as we continued on, I just thought about it more and more and more. And then ultimately led me to doing what I'm doing now. And, it helped that, I was genuinely a good fucking person, right? It helped because when I left, I didn't burn any bridges, but also I kept so many friends there that they genuinely wanted to support me in my new venture, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know how many people within that company that have called me to work for them, and I appreciate it.
Same.
Big Jim, Andy's dad.
Yeah.
I'm going back to his house again here, well, probably in a month. Jay and Char, Becky and Jarrett, all these people support me. You know what I mean? And that means the freaking world to me, because that means they saw something in me and they trusted me. So, the transition was easy in mind, physically, spiritually,
an application. Yeah.
Yeah. It fucks you up, man. You got to realize when you're doing that shit, you are literally going from a steady W-2 job.
Yeah.
And you're relying on yourself. No ifs, ands, or buts. You could fuck up. If you can't pay the bills next month, that's on you, dog. There's no way around it.
Yeah, that's what I really thought about. Because dude, even what it was February of last year, so it's been like a year and a half since I quit my W-2 job, and some days I still wake up and I'm like, "Fuck, man."
Yep.
Dude, it's and because we worked for Andy, of course, and I still consider him my leader, my mentor, my friend, as I know you do.
Oh yeah,
I literally talked to him last night for just a brief minute, and now that we're out here and doing it, I want to know, because we heard all the stories, we've been in the original store, we know all people that can testify to it, we've read the book, we listened to the podcast, we know he worked for 10 years, made roughly $58,000 total, cumulative, slept on the piss stained mattress, went door to door, worked multiple jobs, funded the whole thing on credit cards, fucked up their credit, $12,000 striping parking lots. Now that you've been doing this for a stretch of time and it's only been a couple years,
right?
How much do you think we took all that story for granted?
Oh, absolutely. Everybody you fucking tell or hears about that. First of all, everyone thinks First Form's a goddamn cult, which is hilarious. No, they just build a mindset, bro. It's not a cult.
It's a culture, dude. Look,
that's exactly it.
A big reason why companies just continue to be products and services that suck, trying to force themselves upon people, is because they don't create community. No, First Form does a lot of things really well. High quality products, amazing service, but the people invest in you. I don't know the last time I went into my local store and I walked away with friends. That place, they become your friends, they become your family. If they know you're working on yourself, you don't even buy products, you'll have people who straight up check up on you. If you want to call that a cult, go ahead. But you know what? I would rather have that than 99% of businesses I deal with.
Yeah, bro. Because look, not to segue off the Andy thing, but what you were talking about, just right there, the culture that they create, that's literally backed my company.
Mine too.
I can't say that about a lot of my high school friends or a lot of my family. No. They all think it's a joke. And not to say they think it's a joke. In reality, they probably fucking do. But the people closest to you aren't your biggest fucking supporters. Those are the people that are going to tell you that, hey, get a job, do this, do that. Why are you wasting your time? And it's just bullshit, man. The people who actually care are the ones that are going to support you. And that's the biggest lesson I think I got out of entrepreneurship. And it's so funny because Andy always talked about, hey, this, when Summer Smash just happened, it was so funny. He took a picture of everyone out there, and I think Sal was talking, or it might have been him talking, but either way, he posted the photo on Instagram. He's like, just at a little barbecue.
Little company barbecue.
With
Luda as an opener.
Exactly. Dude.
Yeah.
People can do whatever they want. And you know what? when you stop giving a fuck and stop making excuses, you are going to get so much farther. And most of the time, it's literally your own thoughts that hold people back in this situation. You can't be afraid of the no. You can't be afraid of the what if. You just got to go fucking do it, man. Like the day you called me, I know it sounded like you were shaking in your boots, but man, I was so fucking proud of you at that point. Cause
when I went full time in my business?
Absolutely.
Oh God.
Absolutely. Well, only for the simple fact, dude, you got it in you. You got the grind, and you have completely have taken what they taught us, what you learned, because a lot of people, all that knowledge just goes right above their head, but you put it into action. And when you did that, you made an area for yourself that a lot of people don't make. I mean, you went from negative 12 followers on Instagram and social media to what? 10K plus?
Yeah, 10.7. Because
you busted your fucking ass. And when you worked at First Form, social media wasn't even your shtick. It wasn't your deal.
That's kind of how I set myself apart in the Legionnaire program. I will say that.
Right. But was it your job?
No. It was like when we were in the warehouse, I adopted it because I was just like, it's very sad to say this, but like given my background in English, like for those of you listening, I majored in creative writing and minored in literature studies in college because
shout out Meckel.
Yes, shout out Aaron Meckel. You were always cool. You're always a G. And shout out to a lot of my cool ass English teachers, Bill Maxfield. What the fuck is his name? I can't think of it. Mark Guloth.
Yep.
Y'all were all bad motherfuckers. I still love you. Actually, even Regina Gleason, you're pretty cool too.
Oh,
you know,
Miss G.
You can be sassy as hell.
Oh yeah.
She had a picture of herself on her desk. You ever notice that?
Fuck yeah, dude. She don't take no fucks. She gave no fucks,
but
man.
That's not the point. The point is like when it came to like writing captions and getting people's attention, that was something to this day I know how to do better than the majority of people. It's one of my only strengths in life is communication. So for me, kind of putting myself out there with displays of what I could do with social media kind of led to me doing what I'm doing today. I don't have a real problem saying what I think and what I feel, and it's drawn me a lot of not only ire, but positive attention too. And so, as far as a producer / co-host guy, like you pick the guy who's good with words, who doesn't like to shut the fuck up.
It wasn't by chance.
I'm here for a reason.
Amen.
But, going back to it, we were talking about undercutting Andy's stories and whatnot. And you had talked about the fact of like, okay, here's some of the things I've learned from him and putting it into real application. The thing I think that has been most useful to me is one of two things. I kind of want to hear your opinions on them. Number one is like the zero options mentality. That's one of those things that every time I hear Andy talk about it with conviction, I know that he really means it,
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is one of the biggest things you have to have, man. I kind of spoke on it before. We don't have anyone else. You know what I mean? We literally bet on ourselves and what we know or what we don't know. We bet on our ability to learn it to a point so well that somebody's going to welcome us into their home and or life and pay us to do it. Whether that be, the knowledge of doing it, like you helping me with podcasts. You've taught me a lot of good shit already. Or building a house or any avenue you can think of, like supplementation. You have to bet on yourself. And if you don't learn, you don't you don't go knock on doors. Like,
right.
There's a lot of people Thomas Robbins, one of my buddies, he started at a roofing company recently. Got me a new roof, insurance. But anyways, he spent a lot of time just door knocking.
Yeah.
He ain't afraid to get a no, but most of the time people will start with a no and then he'll educate them on, hey man, like, look, I know you said you walked around your property, but did you look at this, and this? Let me show you real quick. if you don't mind, let's just take a quick walk. It ain't going to cost you anything. I'm not charging you anything. I just want to show you what I'm seeing. That way you're educated for next time, or future occasions. If something does go bad with your siding over there, this is why you got a hole here.
Yeah.
But, the biggest thing is he's not afraid to go do it, right? And with that education he gives people and the comfortability he gives people, he ends up getting them a new roof or new siding because he educates them on the point, hey man, like we're paying into this insurance. Why the fuck would you pay into this insurance if you're not going to utilize it? Mm-hmm. It's not going to raise your rates.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can get you a free roof. Boom. I got a free roof.
And he has a new client that's really happy.
That's exactly it. And so for that business he's in, people are going to get referrals, right? Mm-hmm. So this neighbor tells this neighbor, tells this neighbor, but it all started with his knock.
Yep.
That's the zero option mentality, man.
Well, one of the reasons I bring those things up is because I want to see how they apply to you. Like when it comes to the zero options mentality, what are some of those things you have to utilize that mindset for that you otherwise hate doing on your own time?
Oh, paperwork for sure, which I have gotten to love it. But, there's so many different things that go along with contracting that I have a problem being bad at something and I have a problem saying no. Let me rephrase that. I don't have a problem saying no in the right circumstances, but if I know it's within my realm of possibility, I will take the time, go home, figure it out, and then come back to someone knowing I know how to do it to a great standard that I could do it and leave their home happy with, right? So it's one of those things I always have to be learning. Different ways to do it. And I think one of the biggest hiccups that people have, man, is that people get so caught up in thinking that their way is the only way. And when that happens, you're fucked.
Yep.
I've learned so much just by taking my ego out and listening. Like even Taylor's taught me stuff. When Taylor started with me, she literally asked me how to put a screw in a board, right? Just to get comfortable with it, right? Because she didn't know any better. Like she knew how to use a screw gun. She knew how to put the screw in there, but she asked.
Mm-hmm.
So, but she took it on herself to learn how to do drywall through, I think, she follows this girl called Drywall Shorty on TikTok. Watch all this girl's videos, man. And this girl is a badass when it comes to drywall. Quick, fast, efficient, like done. Perfect. And that's where Taylor learned most of her stuff. Like, yeah, I taught her stuff. My dad taught her stuff. But, with that being said about Taylor, she taught me stuff too that I didn't even know about, that my dad didn't even know about. So you have to really let your ego go. And you have to be open to fucking learning everything. That was one of my biggest caveats for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That I had such an inflated, I wouldn't say an inflated ego, but I was so afraid to step out of my norm and do different things that I just didn't.
Yeah.
So.
No, I can appreciate that. That's good objectivity because a lot of people can't see that themselves. I mean, one of the things I know I ignored that Andy says that it comes up in my mind every day is you're not as good as you think you are.
Absolutely.
And we're both in the first few years of our businesses. And so I myself, there's a client who's not happy with me right now. And it's like, all right, there's certain things that I can say and positions I can make, but it's like, it's also on me to do better, making sure that I have all the details in the front end. It's that humility that you talk about and the zero options mentality that like I'm expressing right now is like doing 75 hard and just saying, hey, these are your daily disciplines. These have to get done no matter what. I don't care how long it takes you or how ugly it is, like get it done. So at least to hold myself accountable to the same questions I ask you today. I would say the other thing though, that I think really matter moving forward is like having systems. That's something that Andy's huge on. He has his power list And, you try to figure out a system for everything. I think I'm still really bad at this. If I'm being honest, I'm kind of spontaneous about a lot of things, which is not good. For you, do you have any systems that you implement or any advice you'd give on that?
Well, I mean, to me, and this could kind of go back to the zero options mentality too. I think I have to walk a certain path in the morning, right? I hold myself to a standard of being physically fit, right? So I have to get up in the morning, immediately drink water, 16 ounces preferred, and then I go straight to the gym. I'll answer emails, right? To catch up on the day, catch up everything I missed last night. Because some people will call or text or email after 9. And for me, past 9, I know people always say, answer your phone, do this, do that. And I 1,000% agree. But I know I'm going to bed at 9. And for me to give the very best, I figured out that I go to bed at 9, declutter my mind. Then after that, boom, get up, go to the gym, do this, come back. I sit here. I run my game plan for the day. Write down everything I got to do. And then once I do that, we hop off to the job. If it says, hey, you got to take stuff from this job to this job or go to Home Depot prior to doing that, whatever I write down on that list and I think about during my gym time, that's what I do. And then that catapults my day into what it becomes. There are times where I have to go to so many different places. So that all follows through until once my day ends and I get back here, whether that be 2 p.m., which if I get back here at 2 p.m., I'm doing office work and stuff like that. Or, I get back here today I got back here at 6:15, right? And I took the time when I got back here and I sat down, wrote out everything I did today so I don't forget. And then everything I need to do tomorrow. And then I just repeat that process, man. I just keep going back to it. Although I'm creating that list now, when I get off, while it's fresh, I still, after I go to the gym, I still check back up on it in the morning. You know what I mean? Because things could change from when I get off to the following morning, right? So, it's always rechecking that list for me to make sure everything is tight knit. Because I don't just have myself, right? I have other contractors that I've hired to be at different jobs. So, for instance, the other day, I drove out to St. Albans to look at a job with a concrete contractor for a sidewalk. Well, I had a painter at the Page Avenue job, and I had somebody framing in O'Fallon. So, I have to dictate what's my next move after the concrete bid, because that was kind of just floating at that point. It's okay, where do I need to be next? So for me, my systems are just trying to stay on top of my shit, man. And I need to get a hell of a lot better. And I think with, growing and evolving in my company, and more importantly, with my company, getting people established below me, because Taylor left and now she's making fucking great cookies. But getting that all taken care of, bro, I can better implement more systems, right? Because I'm trying to wear 1,000 different hats right now, which is no excuse to have bad systems, but
you can still be in a figuring it out period.
Absolutely.
I think I'm in a figuring it out period.
Without a doubt.
But I can also be objective enough to be hey, I think most people would say well, in your figuring it out period, I think there are a lot more people disciplined than me. So, I'm objective to say that I have a lot of changes that I need to make. And I appreciate your objectivity in those things. I think the audience will appreciate that too, because I think that in the world of podcasting, you have a lot of people who want to podcast for the sake of saying they want to podcast. I have one, but I don't publicize it because I don't ever promote it really, because I don't update it very often.
Right.
It's also my job though to help people do podcasts. So
exactly.
I get more pleasure out of helping other people. And for you specifically, taking on this project, it when you first brought it up to me, I wasn't sure what kind of direction it was going to take, because again, we all get excited to do something.
Oh yeah.
But now that we're here and doing it, talk a little bit about how you went from being the guy who worked for great entrepreneurs to going into entrepreneurship to now taking that next step to talk to people about it. Talk to me a little bit about this project coming to life.
Dude, and it was me and you have talked about this for a very, very long time. And I knew I wanted to do a podcast, but I hadn't found something that made me want to start it. You know what I mean? I thought I had a few ideas here and there because, we've went through this process, like you said, a few times, but, something that really hits home to me is, well, what I strive to do is look at the base community here in St. Louis, Missouri, and, beyond, and really find entrepreneurs that I may know or that I may not know. Right. And, I want to see what they're doing within their industry that makes not only their brand, but their business and their identity something we're speaking on. Because although a lot of people do have podcasts and this, that, and the other, I know so many freaking entrepreneurs, man, much like yourself, that do incredible things and have incredible information, and it's just not put out into the world. You know what I mean? Every entrepreneur has their way of doing things. And kind of like to hop off of what I was saying earlier with, Taylor teaching me things, I want to learn from you guys. I want to learn from everybody. That way I get better as a person. I get better as an entrepreneur. Like, yeah, maybe those things won't even work for me because maybe we're in two completely separate industries, but there's a nugget in there somewhere that person can teach me something. And that's what I think really falls short, that other people look and say, oh, well, he's in that industry or she's in this industry, or, even from an outsider's perspective, like that somebody wants to start a business. Like, dude, hearing your story, that could change a lot of lives, man.
No,
not to sound crazy, but there are a lot of big stories where people just took that fucking shot, and through missed payments, breakups, divorces, fucking just financial hardships, just brutal fucking times, man. Because everyone thinks, oh, we're all fucking rich because you own your own business.
Fuck no, dude.
Yeah, exactly. We're fucking not.
No,
we're not.
No, bro. I'll expose myself very quick. Like in my first year of business, I only did like 55 grand.
Right.
Okay, like that's not crazy. That's a little, that's 30,000 less than I did at my job. And it's like, I know I could have done better, but at the same time, it's like, well, do I feel like my time was well spent? And it's like, the answer is still yes.
Absolutely.
Like I've got a lot of life experiences and I do a lot of things a lot of people don't. And I don't have that much leveraged against me. Like I don't have independence. I don't have a wife. I don't have a family to provide for. I get to create content for a living. I get to do really cool shit with really cool people. And it's something of like being this age at this point in time that I think it's a very unique time to start a project, especially because more and more people are moving away from mainstream media, which is great.
Oh, it's absolutely perfect.
When you think about the ultimate goal for maybe not even just this show, but like I'll give you options. You can speak on the one that's most compelling to you. When you think about like the ultimate outcome for this show, your business, your brand as a whole, your life, like take those options and what comes out?
Change lives. That's it. Plain and simple, dude. It for me, it's always been like, if you look at one of the main reasons I started a business is because I grew up in a poor family. My dad busted his ass at a company called Linens and Things. The owner got overzealous, expanded way too much, went bankrupt, took his pension, took his retirement, took everything. He's still working a job now. My mom always worked in the cafeteria because, it's it's a solid job. She has fun at it, but my dad was making the good money then. And so when that happened, it fucking hit us pretty hard, man. I was 16 helping my parents pay rent. But that's not a scoff at my parents.
No, you had to do what you had to do.
To me, that's a fuck you to that business owner that did that pulled that shady shit, that got so ass backwards in his business that he forgot he had human lives at his palms.
Also, for context, though, when we were 16, that was also during the Great Recession of the late 2000s. So that also adds fuel to like the hurt and the fire that people are going through as well. So,
without doubt,
a lot of people won't necessarily know that we're both 31 and that's how old we were at that point in time. And again, that was something that also Andy taught us, is that when a lot of people went into their turtle shell, he and Chris went out in full force and advertised as hard as they could just by being good guys.
So dude, like for that, I became an entrepreneur to make sure that my parents never want for anything. For a family that I don't have, I'm going to take care of them. Now, are they going to be spoiled brats? Fuck no. They're going to earn it. They're going to earn everything because obviously I was raised in a blue collar family. You're not getting anything for free, man. You're going to bust your ass, right? No. And so it's always been about changing lives for me. And I think that's one of my biggest things for this too is, dude, I just want to change fucking lives. I don't know how many times I can say that, but it's just so true. And that's literally what I care about. I will undercut myself most of the time, just to help other people out. And I know that can be perceived as a bad thing. And generally in business it is. And I've learned a lot from that and grown from it to where I don't do it. But, dude, it's just, if somebody picks one thing up from this specific podcast, I'm good with it, And then as I march down this line with different entrepreneurs, different business owners, different friends, no matter what it is, if there's one person that's affected and it changes their life, whether it be, they start going to the gym, or, hey, I lowered my hours and went part-time so I could start this business, or I don't care what it is. I want to leave a positive and lasting impact on other people's lives. And that's the most important thing.
I can appreciate that. I think I can appreciate that because it wraps up a neat little bow of the mission of not only the show, but also the why it's so important to you. And I think if those things are presented in a high capacity and with an open mind, then it can touch a lot of people. But it has to be met with work and consistent work. And so to make sure you continue doing this in the near future and the long future, what can the audience do to hold you accountable?
Man, just stay on me. If you learned something from this podcast and you loved it, or you just really like hearing Murph talk for some reason,
I wouldn't.
Repost that shit, man.
0 out of 10. Don't
jump
recommend.
in my DMs, jump in Murph's DMs. Let us know what you think. And also, if there's any other entrepreneurs out there that want to be on this podcast, let me know. Or if you guys want to know, or if you guys want any entrepreneurs on here, let us know all the same, man. If this keeps going, when it keeps going, it'll strictly just because I like helping people. I want to change some lives. I want to learn as much as I can about this field of work to positively affect myself and the core group I hold around me. And if I can do that, then it's a compound interest factor, right? Because one person will tell another person will tell another person. And then next thing you know, hopefully, we just created a shitload of new entrepreneurs, right? And that's changing a lot of fucking families, man. That's crazy shit to think about that, So, guys, if you like it, if you love it, reach out to me on social media, repost it, do your thing. Let me know what you think.
I think that's all we really have to cover today. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, man. I'm just excited to be doing it finally. And more importantly, I appreciate you giving me your time, your knowledge, the effort that you put in. I know you just got back from Jajissa.
Don't ever call it that again.
What?
That's not how it's said.
Jajissa?
That's
oh man, I think it's pretty appropriate.
Y'all might hear a man get rear naked choked on his first ever podcast episode.
Dead. But no, man, that's all I really got to say. I just appreciate your time, your effort. Anyone that's listening, watching, however it may be, I really appreciate you guys as well. And so guys, as I talked about, this being the very first Let Me Talk to You podcast, I think it wasn't too shitty, hopefully. However, next time on this podcast, if you really like hearing Murph talk for some reason, that is going to be my guest. He's going to be the very first live guest I get to interview on this podcast, and it is going to be a humdinger, if I may say.
Well, I was going to be the first ever guest on this podcast, but I've now formally resigned. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
All right. I'll see y'all next week, everybody.
Adios.